London, March 2008. Emma Hartley's phone pressed against her ear, Marcus's voice smooth and familiar on the line. "Just checking you're okay, babe. You nearly there?" "Yeah, almost at the cafe," she said, her breath visible in the cool spring air. She didn't see the young man approaching from her left, didn't notice the bottle in his hand, had no idea that the person she was speaking to, the man who'd said he loved her just weeks ago, was listening, waiting for the sound of her screams. What happened in the next 10 seconds would change Emma Hartley's face, her future, and her entire understanding of human cruelty. But to understand how we arrived at this moment, we need to go back 5 weeks. Emma Hartley stood before the full-length mirror in her Kensington flat, adjusting her hair one final time. At 24, she was living the dream she'd chased since leaving Surrey 5 years ago. The reflection showed a woman who'd transformed herself from a small-town teenager into someone whose face appeared in magazines across London. "You're going to be late," her flatmate Zoe called from the kitchen. Emma grabbed her portfolio and headed out. Today's casting could change everything. A major department store campaign that would elevate her from catalog work to genuine recognition. The casting went well. Emma had learned to channel her nervous energy into the camera, to project that elusive quality the industry called presence. By the time she left the Shoreditch studio, she felt the familiar buzz of possibility. London in early 2008 was a city of opportunity. The economy was strong, modeling was booming, and social media was just beginning to change how talent was discovered. Emma had embraced Facebook and MySpace, carefully curating an online presence that reflected success, approachability, and ambition. That evening, Emma met her friends at a wine bar in Notting Hill. Zoe, Priya, and Hannah, her core group since they'd all met at a casting 3 years earlier. The modeling world could be isolating, but these women had formed genuine friendships. "So, did you book it?" Priya asked eagerly. "Won't know for a few days, but I felt good about it," Emma said, sipping her wine. They talked about work, upcoming fashion week, Zoe's disastrous Tinder date. Emma felt grateful for these moments of normalcy. "Are you seeing anyone?" Priya asked. Emma shook her head. "Not really. I've been on a few dates, but nothing serious. Kind of enjoying being single." Honestly, it was mostly true. Emma had dated sporadically. A photographer who turned out to be married, a finance guy obsessed with his own reflection. She'd begun to wonder if meaningful connection was possible in a city where everyone performed a version of themselves. When Emma returned home that night, she settled onto her sofa with her laptop. She checked emails, nothing from the casting yet, then scrolled through Facebook, accepting friend requests and updating her status. She was about to close her laptop when a message notification popped up, a friend request from someone named Marcus Brennan. The profile showed a handsome man with dark hair and an athletic build. She didn't recognize him, but his profile showed he lived in London and had several mutual friends. Curious, she clicked on his message. "Hi, Emma. I know this is probably weird, reaching out to someone I don't know, but I saw your profile and had to say something. You have the most beautiful smile I've ever seen. I'm Marcus. I'd love to get to know you if you're open to it. No pressure at all. Hope you're having a good evening. MX." Emma felt a flutter of flattery mixed with caution. The message was forward but not crude. She clicked through to his profile. Marcus Brennan, 28, worked in sports training and fitness. His photos showed him practicing martial arts, posing with trophies, at restaurants with friends. They had 3 mutual friends, people she knew from the modeling world. That provided some legitimacy. Still, something felt slightly off. "Most beautiful smile I've ever seen" was intense for a first message, and the kiss at the end felt presumptuous. Emma's finger hovered over the delete button. Her instinct warned her away. But another part of her, the part that was lonely despite her protestations, hesitated. What harm could one conversation do? She accepted his friend request and typed, "Hi, Marcus. Thanks for the message. That's very sweet. I'm good, thanks. How's your evening going?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. Marcus had replied, "So much better now that you've responded. I didn't think you would. Can I be honest? I've been looking at your profile for a week, trying to work up the courage to message you. You're not just beautiful. You seem genuine, you know? Like a real person, not just another London model type. Sorry if that sounds weird. I'm not usually this forward, but something about you made me take the chance. Emma read the message twice. It was intense, yes, but also vulnerable. He was putting himself out there, admitting he'd been nervous. That took courage, didn't it? The conversation continued for the next hour. Marcus explained he was a martial arts instructor who competed regionally. He asked about her modeling career, seemed genuinely interested in her as a person. He was articulate, funny, self-deprecating in a charming way. I have to confess something, he wrote around 11 p.m. I feel like I already know you're someone special. Is that crazy? I don't usually believe in instant connection, but I can't shake the feeling that you're different from anyone I've met before. Emma stared at the message. It was crazy. They'd been talking for barely an hour. This was exactly the kind of love bombing she'd read about in articles about online dating red flags. And yet it felt good to be seen, to be pursued with such intensity. Not crazy, she typed back. Just fast. But I'm enjoying talking to you too. Can I call you? He asked. I want to hear your voice. Emma hesitated. This was moving quickly, but she'd already crossed several boundaries tonight. What difference would a phone call make? She sent him her number. When her phone rang moments later, his voice was deep, confident, warm. They talked until past midnight about everything and nothing. Marcus told her about growing up in East London, how martial arts had saved him from a difficult childhood, his dreams of opening his own gym. Emma shared her story, the small-town girl with big city aspirations. You're extraordinary, Marcus said before they hung up. I know it's soon, but I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to meet someone like you. Emma fell asleep with a smile on her face and a quiet voice in the back of her mind whispering that something about all of this felt wrong. She ignored it. Emma woke to 17 messages from Marcus. They'd come in throughout the night, each more effusive than the last. 3:47 a.m. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about our conversation. You're incredible. For 23 a.m. Is this what it feels like to meet someone you're meant to be with? 6:15 a.m. Good morning, beautiful. Hope you slept well. Can't wait to talk to you today. Emma sat up in bed, scrolling through the messages with a mixture of flattery and unease. The volume was overwhelming, the intensity alarming. They'd had one phone conversation. This level of attachment wasn't normal. But another part of her, the part that had felt invisible in her recent dating life, felt seen, desired, important. She replied, Good morning. That's a lot of messages. I slept well, thanks. How are you? His response came within seconds. Sorry. I know I'm being intense. I just can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you? See me? In person. I need to see you. Please. Coffee? Lunch? Anything. Today. Emma's rational mind screamed caution. This was too much, too fast. But she found herself typing, Coffee could work. This afternoon, they arranged to meet at a cafe in Covent Garden at 3 p.m. Emma told Zoe where she was going, sent her Marcus's profile link, and promised to text every 30 minutes. Babe, this is giving me weird vibes, Zoe said over breakfast. 17 messages? That's not romantic, that's obsessive. He's just enthusiastic, Emma defended, though she wasn't sure if she was trying to convince Zoe or herself. Just be careful, Zoe said. Keep your phone on. When Marcus walked through the cafe door at precisely 3 p.m., Emma's breath caught. He was even more attractive in person, tall, powerfully built, with an intensity in his dark eyes that was both compelling and slightly unnerving. He spotted her immediately and smiled. Emma, he said, approaching the table, you're even more beautiful than your photos. The passive-aggressive tone was subtle enough that Emma wondered if she was being oversensitive. By Saturday, Emma had convinced herself that her friends were just being overly cautious. Marcus wasn't dangerous. He was passionate. She dressed carefully for their dinner date. When Marcus picked her up in his BMW, his eyes darkened with approval. You look incredible, he said, but there was something possessive in his gaze. The restaurant was intimate, candlelit, quiet, with private booths. Marcus ordered for both of them without asking Emma's preference. Over dinner, Marcus asked about her past relationships. At first casual, his questions became increasingly pointed. Have you stayed in touch with any exes? Do you still have photos of them? Do you think about them when we're together? Emma answered honestly. She had a few exes, remained friendly with one or two, certainly didn't think about them with Marcus. But her answers seemed to agitate him. I couldn't bear the thought of you with someone else, he said, gripping her hand tightly. The idea of another man touching you drives me crazy. Marcus, we've only known each other a week, Emma said gently. His grip tightened. I know, and in that week, I've fallen completely in love with you. I know you feel it too. I like you, Emma said carefully. But love is... Don't, he interrupted sharply. Then, catching himself, he softened. I just feel so much for you. Can you be open to the possibility? After dinner, Marcus suggested they get a hotel room. Not for sex, he added quickly, just to spend more time together. I'm not ready to say goodnight. Every instinct Emma had screamed no. But Marcus was looking at her with such vulnerability, and she found herself agreeing. The hotel was expensive, luxurious, a suite overlooking the Thames. They sat on the sofa talking and drinking champagne from room service, until Emma yawned and said she should head home. Stay, Marcus said. Please, just sleep here. I promise I'll be a gentleman. I don't have anything with me. I'll have someone bring whatever you need. Please, Emma, don't leave me. The phrasing was odd, but Emma was tired, slightly drunk, and Marcus was already calling the front desk. She agreed to stay. They lay on the bed fully clothed, talking about their childhoods, their fears, their dreams. Marcus was gentler than he'd been all evening, vulnerable in a way that made Emma's heart soften. When he kissed her, Emma kissed back. When his hands started to wander, she gently pushed them away. I'm not ready for that yet, she said. Can we just sleep? For a moment, Marcus's expression darkened. Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of course, whatever you want. Emma woke hours later to Marcus's hands on her body, his weight pressing her into the mattress. Marcus, no, she said, trying to push him away. Don't worry, he whispered. It's okay. You want this? I said no, Emma said more forcefully. But Marcus wasn't listening. What happened next would haunt Emma for the rest of her life. 8 hours of assault, threats, and violence that transformed passion into terror and love into nightmare. Emma barely remembered getting home. She'd ordered an Uber the moment Marcus finally fell asleep, gathering her things in the dark with shaking hands, her body aching, her mind numb. She told the driver she'd had too much to drink. He didn't ask questions, didn't notice the way she held herself rigid in the back seat. Zoe was asleep when Emma let herself into the flat. She went straight to the bathroom, peeling off her dress and stepping underwater as hot as she could stand, scrubbing her skin until it was raw. But no amount of soap could wash away what had happened. 8 hours. Marcus had assaulted her, threatened her, violated her for 8 hours. When she'd said no, he'd laughed. You don't mean that. When she tried to fight, he'd pinned her wrists. Don't make this difficult. When she'd finally stopped struggling, gone limp, he'd become angry. Why aren't you enjoying this? The threats came around dawn. If you tell anyone, I'll ruin you. I'll post your photos everywhere. Who do you think people will believe? Emma had said nothing. What was there to say? This is your fault. Marcus had continued. You came here willingly. You led me on. What did you expect? Now, in her own shower, Emma felt the full weight crash over her. She slid down the tile wall, sobbing silently. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Good morning, beautiful. Last night was incredible. When can I see you again? I love you so much. Emma ran to the toilet and vomited. She couldn't tell anyone. Marcus's threats echoed in her mind. He would ruin her career. And who would believe her? She'd gone to the hotel willingly. She'd kissed him. Shame burned through her. This was her fault. Another message. Are you ignoring me? That's not very nice after the night we shared. Then, I'm sorry if I was too rough. You just drive me crazy. That's a compliment. Emma's hand shook as she typed, "I need some space." His reply came instantly. "Space? You're mine now. Don't push me away. I just need time to think." "Think about what?" "We're perfect together. I won't let you ruin this." The messages kept coming, oscillating between love and accusations, apologies and threats. Emma stopped reading them, leaving her phone face down. She spent Sunday in a fog, telling Zoe she was sick, staying in her room. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back in that hotel room. By Monday, Emma convinced herself she needed to move forward, to pretend it hadn't happened. She had a casting that afternoon. She covered the bruises on her wrists with foundation, smiled at the casting director, maintained the illusion that everything was fine. Marcus's messages evolved from angry to apologetic to loving to threatening. 73 messages in 2 days. Emma blocked his number, but he started using different numbers, emailing, and messaging on Facebook. "We need to talk. You owe me that. I'm sorry for scaring you. Please give me another chance. If you don't respond, I'm coming to your flat. I know where you live." That last one terrified Emma. He didn't know where she lived. She told him everything. On Tuesday, Emma confided in Priya, not telling her everything, but admitting things with Marcus had gotten intense. "Did he hurt you?" Priya asked sharply. "No," she quickly lied. "He's just persistent. I want to end it, but he won't leave me alone. Block him, and if he shows up, call the police." But calling the police meant questions, meant potentially going public, meant risking exactly what Marcus had threatened. So Emma said nothing, did nothing, just tried to avoid Marcus's increasingly unhinged messages and hoped he'd eventually lose interest. On Wednesday evening, her phone rang from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, Emma answered. Finally, Marcus's voice, tight with anger. "Do you know how worried I've been?" "Marcus, I told you I need space." "You don't need space. You need to stop being a scared little girl and accept we're meant to be together." "I don't want to see you anymore," Emma said. "What happened at the hotel wasn't okay. You hurt me. I hurt you. I loved you. I showed you passion, and you're too immature to handle it. I said no, multiple times. You didn't mean it. And even if you did, you don't get to use me and throw me away. That's not how this works. I'm not meeting you," Emma said when he demanded they talk. "Yes, you are. Because if you don't, I'm going to make your life very difficult. I know people who can make sure you never work again." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm explaining reality. Meet me tomorrow, 1 p.m., that cafe in Covent Garden. If you don't show, you'll regret it." He hung up. Emma sat on her bed, heart racing. She could go to the police now. But what proof did she have? It would be her word against his. She spent that night researching domestic violence, assault, coercive control. She read stories from women who'd tried to report similar incidents, only to be dismissed or blamed. By morning, she'd made a decision. She would meet Marcus in a public place. She would be clear about ending things. Then she would cut all contact and move on. She told herself it was pragmatic, not cowardly. She showed up at the cafe at 1 p.m. Thursday, hoping this would be the last time she ever saw Marcus Brennan. She had no idea how catastrophically wrong that hope would be. The cafe bustled with a lunch crowd. Emma found a table near the window where she could see the door. She ordered coffee she didn't want, just to have something to do with her hands. Marcus arrived 10 minutes late, wearing gym clothes. He sat without preamble. "You came," he said. "You didn't give me much choice. There's always a choice. You made the right one." He ordered coffee. "See? We're two adults having a conversation. I came to tell you this needs to end," Emma said, forcing eye contact. "Whatever this was, it's over. I don't want to see you again or have you contact me." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You don't mean that? Because of Saturday night?" "Emma, I told you I was sorry about being rough. But that's what happens when people are passionate. It's real. You assaulted me," Emma said quietly. "For 8 hours. You hurt me. You threatened me. That's not passion. That's violence." Something dark flickered across his face. "Don't call it that. I loved you that night. If you can't handle intensity, that's your problem. I'm leaving." Emma started to stand, But Marcus's hand shot across the table, gripping her wrist hard. Sit down. You're hurting me. Sit down, and I'll let go. Emma sat. Marcus released her wrist, leaving red marks. Better, he said calmly. Now listen. You don't get to walk away from me. I've invested time, emotion, and money into this. You don't get to just discard me. There was never anything to discard. We went on one date. One date. Marcus laughed bitterly. We shared something profound, and now you're trying to minimize it. That's sociopathic. Emma felt trapped. She glanced around, but no one noticed the tension at their table. London was a city of studied indifference. I need you to leave me alone, Emma said quietly. Please. No, he said simply. You're mine, and I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. Everyone belongs to someone. I'm just claiming my peace. Your heart, your body, your future. Those belong to me now. Emma felt genuine fear settle into her bones. This wasn't just obsession. Marcus genuinely believed he owned her. I'm going to leave now, Emma said, gathering her bag. If you try to stop me or contact me again, I'm going to the police. She walked toward the door, half expecting him to follow. But he remained seated, watching her with an expression that chilled her. Because Marcus looked patient, like someone who knew he had all the time in the world to get what he wanted. That evening, the messages started again from different numbers. You embarrass me today. That has consequences. I know where you live, where you work, who your friends are. This isn't over. You belong to me, and I always collect what's mine. Emma blocked each number, but they kept coming. She didn't sleep that night, jumping at every sound. But Marcus didn't come. Not that night. Not the next. By Friday evening, Emma began to relax slightly. Maybe he'd finally gotten the message. Saturday morning, her phone rang from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Emma. Marcus's voice, calm and friendly. How are you? How did you get this number? I have my ways. Listen, I've been thinking about what you said. About needing space, things moving too fast. And you're right. I came on too strong. I apologize. Emma was silent, not trusting this sudden change. I mean it, Marcus continued. I scared you, and that was wrong. I just feel so much for you. But I understand I need to respect your boundaries. Thank you, Emma said cautiously. So let me make it up to you. Nothing romantic, I promise. Just coffee. A chance to apologize properly. To part as friends if that's what you want. 30 minutes of your time. Then I'll leave you alone forever. Every instinct screamed danger. But another part of her wanted to believe people could change, that this nightmare could end peacefully. I don't know. Please. I'm asking for closure. Don't I deserve that much? The guilt manipulation was subtle but effective. Public place, she said finally. Just coffee. 30 minutes. Of course. That cafe in Covent Garden? 2 p.m. Something felt wrong, but Emma couldn't identify what. Okay, 2 p.m. But Marcus, if you try anything, I won't. I promise. This is about closure. Thank you, Emma. He hung up before she could change her mind. Emma texted Priya, meeting Marcus for coffee at 2 to end things properly. Public place, just 30 minutes. If you don't hear from me by 3, call me. Priya responded. Are you sure? Bad feeling, Em. I'll be fine. Just want closure. Emma dressed casually, jeans, a sweater, trainers in case she needed to run. She felt ridiculous taking such precautions, but better safe than sorry. The cafe was busy when she arrived. Emma got a latte and claimed a seat with a clear view of both entrances. 1:58 p.m. 2 o'clock came and went. No sign of Marcus. By 2:15, Emma began to relax. Maybe he'd change his mind. Her phone rang. Marcus, where are you? I'm so sorry. I got held up at the gym. Can you come to me instead? I'm at that internet cafe on your street. I wanted to email you something, but my phone's dying. Please? I'm literally around the corner from you. Emma's blood ran cold. He was near her flat. How long had he been there? I don't think. Please, Emma. 5 minutes. Let me give you proper closure, and I swear I'll never contact you again. Against every screaming instinct, Emma found herself walking toward the tube. She texted Priya, "He's at Internet Cafe near my flat. Going there instead. We'll text in 20 minutes." Emma emerged from the station at 2:47 p.m., walking toward her street. The cafe was just a few doors from her building. She was so focused on the cafe entrance that she didn't notice the young man in the doorway, holding a bottle wrapped in cloth. She was on the phone with Marcus. He called, saying he was almost done, asking her to stay on the line. "Just one more minute," he said. "Emma, I want you to know." Emma never heard the rest. The young man, Jordan Cole, stepped out and threw the bottle's contents directly into her face. For a split second, Emma didn't understand. Liquid splashed across her skin, warm and oily, with a sharp chemical smell. Then the burning started. Pain exploded across her face, her neck, her chest. Pain so intense Emma's mind couldn't process it. She screamed, her hands flying to her face, trying to wipe away whatever was burning her. But touching it only spread it further. Through the phone still clutched in her hand, she could hear Marcus's voice. "What's going on?" "Emma." But he knew. He'd planned it, orchestrated it, paid Jordan £500 to destroy Emma's face. He was listening to her screams with satisfaction. Emma collapsed to the pavement, her mind fragmenting from pain. People were shouting. Someone poured water over her face. Someone yelled to call 999. Emma tried to open her eyes and realized she couldn't. The acid had sealed her eyelids shut. She was going to die. She knew it with absolute certainty. "Ambulance is coming," someone said. "Hold on." But Emma was already slipping away, consciousness retreating from unbearable reality. The last thing she heard was sirens growing louder. And somewhere, miles away, Marcus Brennan ended the call and smiled. Emma's consciousness was fragmented, scattered across moments of excruciating clarity and merciful darkness. Pain was the constant. Pain so comprehensive it became her entire universe. She was aware of being moved, of voices shouting medical terminology she didn't understand. Acid attack, sulfuric, full facial exposure. Get her to the burn unit. Now, the ambulance ride was an eternity compressed into minutes. A paramedic's voice, gentle despite urgency. "Emma, I'm Claire. We're taking you to Royal London Hospital. Try not to touch your face." "What happened?" Emma managed to whisper. "Someone threw acid at you. But you're going to be okay. Just hold on." The hospital was chaos and controlled urgency. Bright lights Emma couldn't see, but she sensed hands touching her carefully, cutting away acid-soaked clothing and voices calling out vital signs. The BP's dropping. "She's going into shock. Get IVs in." "Where's Chun?" 2 minutes out. Emma floated in darkness, tethered to consciousness only by relentless pain. "Emma, stay with me. I'm Dr. Sarah Chun. I'm going to take care of you." The voice was calm, authoritative, cutting through the haze. "I'm a burn specialist. I've treated hundreds of acid victims. I know how much pain you're in. We're going to manage that. But I need to assess your injuries first." Dr. Chin's hands were impossibly gentle, but even the lightest touch sent lightning bolts of agony through Emma's damaged tissue. Full-thickness burns across 70% of facial surface. Both eyes affected. Left appears more severe. Evidence of oral and throat exposure. "We need to intubate before airway swelling closes the passage." "What about her eyes?" another voice asked. "We won't know until the ophthalmologist examines her. But prepare the family for possible permanent vision loss." Someone would have to tell her parents. "Emma, we're giving you something for the pain now," Dr. Chin said. "You'll be very sleepy. When you wake up, you'll be in ICU. Your family is on their way. You're safe now." Safe. The word felt like a cruel joke. The medication pulled her under. Her last thought before darkness claimed her was of Marcus's voice on the phone, pretending he didn't know. Emma's parents arrived 2 hours after the attack. Margaret and David Hartley had driven from Surrey in numb terror. Nothing prepared them for what they saw. Emma lay in the ICU burn unit, barely recognizable beneath medical dressing. Her face was completely wrapped. Tubes and wires connected her to machines. The visible skin on her neck and chest was angry red, blistered. Margaret made a sound, half gasp, half sob, and sank into the chair beside Emma's bed. "My baby," she whispered. David stood frozen. "Who did this?" "The police are investigating," Dr. Chun said gently. "Right now, our focus is Emma's recovery." Dr. Chun explained with clinical precision, softened by compassion. The sulfuric acid had caused full-thickness burns across most of Emma's face. Her left eye had sustained severe damage. Her right eye was not affected but still seriously injured. The acid had burned her eyelids shut, which might have protected the eyes somewhat. Emma's nose had suffered cartilage damage. Her throat was burned from screaming and inhaling vapor. She would need extensive reconstructive surgery, multiple procedures over months, possibly years. Will she? Margaret couldn't finish. "She'll survive," Dr. Chin said firmly. "The next 48 hours are critical, but Emma is young and healthy. Her body can heal from this." "What about her face?" David asked quietly. "Different," Dr. Chun said honestly. "Yes, acid attacks cause permanent scarring, but reconstructive surgery has come remarkably far. We can help her regain function and quality of life. She won't look exactly as she did, but she can still have a full life." Margaret buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Over the next several days, Emma drifted in and out of consciousness, her awareness limited to pain, medication, and her parents' gentle voices reading to her, promising everything would be okay. The police came when she was lucid enough. Detective James Morrison introduced himself, his weathered face kind but serious. "Emma, I need to ask you about what happened." "Take your time." Through her damaged throat, Emma whispered the story. Meeting Marcus online, the controlling behavior, the hotel assault, the threatening messages, the phone call luring her to where she was attacked. "I think Marcus set it up," Emma said. "He was on the phone when it happened. He knew. The person who threw the acid, did you see them?" Morrison asked. Emma shook her head. "It was too fast. I didn't see them coming. We have CCTV footage. We're analyzing it now. Emma, we're going to find who did this. I promise you that." 3 days later, police arrested Jordan Cole. The CCTV footage captured him clearly, approaching Emma, throwing the acid, walking away. Facial recognition identified him within 24 hours. Jordan's flat was raided at dawn. They found the empty acid container in his bin, along with 500 pounds in cash. In the interrogation room, Jordan lasted 45 minutes before breaking. "It wasn't supposed to be acid," he sobbed. Marcus said it was just water, maybe coffee. Something to scare her. He said she was spreading lies and needed to learn a lesson. Detective Morrison leaned forward. "Marcus Brennan told you to throw acid at Emma Hartley?" "He didn't say acid. He said liquid to frighten her. I wouldn't have done it if I'd known." Jordan dissolved into tears. "Is she okay?" "She's alive," Morrison said coldly. "But she's lost sight in one eye, probably permanently. Her face is severely disfigured. She'll need years of surgery. And you did that to her." "I didn't know," Jordan whispered. "But you knew throwing something in someone's face was assault. You knew it was wrong. You did it anyway for money." Jordan had no answer. His confession gave police everything they needed to arrest Marcus Brennan. Marcus was teaching a class when 4 officers entered the gym. He'd been expecting this, but maintained his calm exterior. "Marcus Brennan?" Detective Morrison asked. "That's me. What's this about?" "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm." Marcus smiled slightly as they cuffed him. "This is a mistake. I haven't done anything wrong." At the station, Marcus refused to answer questions without a lawyer. When his solicitor arrived, Marcus stuck to his story. He barely knew Emma Hartley. They'd gone on one date that hadn't worked out. She'd become obsessed afterward, sending messages, showing up at his gym. He'd had to block her. "I had nothing to do with that attack," Marcus said calmly. "That's horrible, truly, but I wasn't involved." "Jordan Cole says otherwise," Morrison said. "Who? Don't play games." "Jordan Cole says you paid him 500 pounds to throw acid in Emma's face." Marcus laughed. "Absurd. Jordan is a troubled kid looking for quick money. If he's claiming I was involved, he's lying to reduce his sentence. I was nowhere near the attack. Where were you? Coffee shop in Hampstead. The staff will remember me. I was there for hours. Morrison made notes. Your phone records show 17 calls to Emma in the days before the attack. From numbers she blocked, yes. I was hurt by her rejection, tried to reach out. Maybe I was persistent, but that's not illegal. She says you assaulted her at a hotel. Marcus's expression hardened. That's a lie. We had consensual relations. If she regretted it and is now calling it assault, that's her issue. The interview went on for hours. Marcus was well prepared, his story consistent. Without Jordan's testimony and physical evidence, the case would be difficult. But Morrison had interviewed thousands of suspects. He knew a guilty man when he saw one. And Marcus Brennan was guilty as hell. 10 days after the attack, Dr. Chun removed the bandages from Emma's eyes for the first time. I need you to prepare yourself, Dr. Chun said gently. What you see won't be what you remember. The swelling is severe, the wounds are healing. This isn't what you'll look like eventually. Emma's parents stood on either side of her bed, each holding a hand. Dr. Chun carefully unwound the gauze. The light was dim. Emma's eyes would be sensitive. Slowly, Emma tried to open them. Her left eye wouldn't respond. The right opened partway, vision blurry. The left eye has severe damage, Dr. Chun explained. The damage to the cornea is too extensive. You won't regain vision in that eye. Emma had expected this, but hearing it confirmed still felt like a punch to the gut. What about the right? Better news. Some permanent damage, yes, but you'll have functional sight. Dr. Chun held up a mirror. Are you ready? Emma nodded, though she wasn't ready, could never be ready. The face in the mirror was a stranger's. Swollen beyond recognition, angry red and purple, scarred and raw. Her left eyelid drooped, the eye behind it clouded. Her nose was misshapen. Her lips were cracked and twisted. Emma stared at herself and felt something inside her break. This wasn't her. This was a monster, a victim, a cautionary tale. This was what Marcus Brennan had made her. She turned away and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that hurt her damaged throat but felt necessary, like grief that had to escape or consume her entirely. Her mother held her. Her father stood with his hand on her shoulder, his own face wet with tears. We're here, Margaret whispered. We love you, and you're going to get through this. But Emma wasn't sure she believed it. 3 weeks after the attack, Emma underwent her second major surgery. Dr. Chun harvested skin from Emma's thigh to reconstruct the left eyelid. Even though you won't regain vision, we need to protect the eye, Dr. Chun explained. Eventually, we can fit you with a prosthetic eye that will look natural. Emma tried to care, but caring required energy she didn't have. Physical therapy started. Simple tasks, eating, drinking, speaking clearly, all required relearning. The burns around her mouth made opening it difficult. Scar tissue was forming, contracting, pulling her features into unnatural positions. You need to do these exercises, the therapist insisted. If you don't, the scarring will limit your movement permanently. So Emma did them, grimacing through pain, forcing damaged muscles to work, fighting the scar tissue. For weeks after the attack, Detective Morrison visited with news. We've charged Marcus Brennan. Conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm, assault, coercive control, and sexual assault based on your hotel statement. Will he be convicted? Emma asked, her speech still slurred. Morrison hesitated. Jordan Cole's testimony is crucial. He's agreed to testify against Marcus for a reduced sentence. With his testimony, we have a strong case. But Marcus has an expensive lawyer and claims Jordan acted alone. That's a lie, Emma said. I know, and we'll prove it. But you may have to testify, which means seeing him again. Emma felt ice in her veins. I can do it. If it puts him in prison, I can do it. You're really brave, Morrison said. Braver than you know. But Emma didn't feel brave. She felt terrified, scarred, broken. 6 weeks after the attack, Emma was discharged. She'd undergone 4 surgeries, countless procedures, and exhausting physical therapy. Dr. Chin walked her through discharge. You'll need to come back regularly for checkups and additional surgeries. We're not done yet, but you can continue healing at home. Emma's parents had prepared her old bedroom, removing mirrors, stocking the bathroom with specialized creams and ointments. Her first night home, Emma lay in her childhood bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a ghost haunting her own life. Her phone buzzed. A message from Zoe, thinking of you. Love you so much. Here, whenever you're ready. Emma hadn't seen her friends since before the attack. The thought of them seeing her like this was unbearable. She typed back, thank you. Not ready yet, but soon. It was a lie. Emma wasn't sure she'd ever be ready, but she was alive. And for now, that would have to be enough. The trial of Marcus Brennan began 8 months after the attack. Emma had undergone 6 surgeries by then, her face slowly being rebuilt through Dr. Chen's skillful work. She still bore obvious scars, would always bear them, but she'd regained some functionality, could eat normally, speak clearly, smile slightly with the right side of her mouth. She'd also regained something less tangible but more important, her determination to see Marcus punished. The Crown Court was imposing, all dark wood and formal procedure. Emma sat in the witness waiting room with her parents, hands shaking despite her resolve. Detective Morrison stopped by. You don't have to do this if you're not ready. We have Jordan's testimony, phone records, CCTV. I'm ready, Emma interrupted. I need to do this. I need to look him in the eye and tell the truth. When Emma was called to testify, she walked into the courtroom with her head high. She wore a simple dress, her hair pulled back, making no attempt to hide her scars. Let the jury see what Marcus Brennan had done. Marcus sat in the dock wearing a suit, his expression carefully neutral. When Emma entered, his eyes flickered over her damaged face, and she saw the briefest flash of satisfaction before he looked away. That look told Emma everything. He wasn't sorry. He was proud. The prosecutor, Miranda Walsh, guided Emma through her testimony. Emma described meeting Marcus online, the rapid escalation, his controlling behavior. He seemed charming at first, Emma said, her voice steady. But very quickly, he became possessive, angry when I had plans with friends, constantly messaging, wanting to know where I was. She described the hotel assault in detail. It was excruciating to recount publicly, but Emma forced herself to be specific, clinical, factual. He sexually assaulted me for approximately 8 hours, Emma said. I said no repeatedly. I tried to fight him off, but he was much stronger, and when I continued to refuse, he became violent. Did you report this to police? Walsh asked. No, Emma admitted. He threatened to ruin my career if I told anyone, and I was ashamed. I blamed myself for going to the hotel, for not recognizing the danger sooner. And after that night, Emma described Marcus's harassment, the constant messages, the threatening tone when she tried to end contact. He called the day before the attack, Emma said, asked to meet for coffee to apologize, to get closure. I agreed because I wanted it to be over. But he called again while I was on my way, said he was near my flat instead. And what happened when you walked toward that cafe? Someone threw acid in my face. I was on the phone with Marcus when it happened. I heard him ask what was wrong, but Emma looked directly at Marcus. He knew exactly what was happening. He planned it. He'd hired someone to destroy me because I'd rejected him. Marcus's lawyer, Patricia Finch, cross-examined Emma aggressively. Ms. Hartley, you claim Mr. Brennan sexually assaulted you, yet you continued to communicate with him afterward. Why? He threatened me, and I was scared. Scared enough to meet him for coffee? I thought if I gave him closure, he'd leave me alone. Or perhaps, Finch suggested, the encounter was consensual, as Mr. Brennan claims, and you regretted it afterward. Perhaps you've constructed this narrative to explain why a relationship ended badly. Emma felt her anger rise. No, that's not what happened. He raped me. For 8 hours. Then he had someone throw acid in my face. Those are facts, not a narrative. But you have no proof Mr. Brennan was involved in the acid attack. Only the word of Mr. Cole, who was caught on camera and has every reason to implicate Mr. Brennan. I know what happened, Emma said firmly. Marcus Brennan destroyed my face because I wouldn't belong to him. That's the truth. Jordan Cole's testimony was damning. He described in detail how Marcus had recruited him, lied about the liquid, paid him to carry out the attack. He told me it was just water or coffee. Jordan said, something to scare her. I wouldn't have done it if I'd known it was acid. But you knew throwing anything in someone's face was assault, the prosecutor pointed out. Yes, Jordan admitted quietly. I knew it was wrong, but Marcus convinced me she deserved it. And I needed the money. That's no excuse. But that's why I did it. The phone records corroborated Jordan's story. Text messages between Marcus and Jordan in the days before the attack. Marcus's call to Emma precisely timed during the attack. CCTV showing Jordan's approach and Marcus's car parked with a clear view. The prosecution built a circumstantial but compelling case. Marcus had means, motive, and opportunity. Marcus took the stand in his own defense, calm and composed. I never told Jordan to throw acid at Emma, he said. I barely knew Jordan. He was a student at the gym, nothing more. What about your relationship with Ms. Hartley? Walsh asked on cross. We dated briefly. It was intense, I'll admit that. I fell hard for her. But when she ended things, I was hurt, yes, but I moved on. 17 phone calls in 2 days. You call that moving on? I call that being heartbroken and foolishly hoping she'd give me another chance. But there's a difference between persistent and dangerous. The jury listened to both sides for 3 weeks. They heard from Emma's friends, from Dr. Chun about Emma's injuries, from Detective Morrison about the investigation. And finally, it deliberated. Emma waited while the jury was out. 2 days of deliberation felt like an eternity. What if they find him not guilty? She asked her mother. Then we'll deal with it, Margaret said. But you've done everything you can. On the 3rd day, the jury reached a verdict. Emma returned to the courtroom, her heart pounding. She didn't look at Marcus. Will the defendant please rise? The judge instructed. Marcus stood. On the charge of conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm. How do you find the defendant? The jury foreman said clearly, guilty. Emma felt something release in her chest. Relief so profound it brought tears. On the charge of sexual assault? Guilty. On the charge of coercive control? Guilty. Guilty on all counts. Marcus's face remained impassive, but Emma saw his hands clench. The judge addressed him directly. Marcus Brennan, you have been found guilty of orchestrating a horrific attack on a young woman whose only crime was rejecting your advances. You demonstrated callous disregard for human life and dignity. This court finds your actions reprehensible. Marcus was sentenced to 16 years to life in prison, with a minimum of 16 years before parole eligibility. Jordan Cole, who had pleaded guilty and cooperated, received 6 years. As Marcus was led away in handcuffs, he looked directly at Emma for the first time since the trial began. And he smiled. It was small, barely perceptible, but Emma saw it. Even in defeat, Marcus was trying to maintain power over her. But Emma didn't look away. She held his gaze, her scarred face a testament to what he'd done and what she'd survived. When the officers finally pulled him away, Emma felt something shift inside her. Marcus Brennan would spend the next 16 years minimum in a cell. His freedom was gone. His power over her was broken. She had survived. And now, finally, she could begin to truly live again. The healing, Emma learned, wasn't linear. It was messy, painful, full of setbacks and small victories that sometimes felt meaningless in the face of what she'd lost. 2 years after the attack, Emma had undergone 14 surgeries. Dr. Chun had reconstructed her face with remarkable skill, skin grafts, tissue expansion, and prosthetics to replace damaged structures. Emma would never look like she had before. That woman was gone, destroyed on a London street corner. But the woman staring back at Emma in the mirror now was someone she was slowly learning to recognize, even respect. The scarring remained visible, smooth, discolored patches across her cheeks and forehead, contracture that pulled at the corners of her mouth and left eye. Her prosthetic left eye looked remarkably real, but didn't move quite naturally. She would never model again. That career, that life was over. But Emma discovered she didn't want to model anymore anyway. The attack had changed her fundamentally. Her priorities had shifted. Her understanding of what mattered had crystallized in ways that only trauma could teach. 3 years after the attack, Emma stood before an audience of 200 people at a conference on domestic violence and assault prevention. Her hand shook slightly as she gripped the podium, but her voice was steady. "My name is Emma Hartley," she began. "And 3 years ago, a man I dated for 2 weeks orchestrated an acid attack that changed my life forever." She told her story, condensed, focused on warning signs she'd missed, red flags she'd dismissed, and controlling behaviors that escalated into violence. "I blamed myself for a long time," Emma said. "I thought if I'd been smarter, more cautious, maybe it wouldn't have happened. But I've learned that the only person responsible is the man who planned it and the man who carried it out." The audience was silent, hanging on her every word. "I'm here today not as a victim, but as a survivor. I'm here to tell others experiencing controlling relationships that it's not normal, it's not love, and it's not your fault. I'm here to say you can survive something terrible and still build a meaningful life afterward." After her speech, people lined up to talk to her. Women who'd experienced similar abuse. Men who recognized controlling patterns in their own behavior. Parents worried about their children's relationships. Emma listened to each person, offered what insight she could, and felt purpose settling into her bones. This was what she was meant to do now. Not model clothes, but use her story to help others, to prevent even one person from experiencing what she had. For years after the attack, Emma published a book, Scarred But Not Broken. A story of survival and resilience became an unexpected bestseller, its unflinching account of abuse and recovery resonating with readers worldwide. Emma donated a portion of proceeds to establishing the Emma Hartley Foundation, which provided support for acid attack survivors, funding for medical treatment, psychological counseling, legal assistance, and advocacy for stricter regulations on acid sales. She traveled to speak at universities, conferences, and community centers. She appeared on television programs, her scarred face a powerful visual reminder of the reality of violence against women. 0.5 years after the attack, Emma fell in love. His name was Thomas, and he was a therapist specializing in trauma recovery. They met at a conference where they were both speaking. "That took incredible courage," Thomas said after her presentation. "Both to survive what you did and to share it so openly." Emma was wary at first. Dating terrified her. The idea of trusting someone, of being vulnerable again, felt impossible. But Thomas was patient. He understood trauma in ways most people didn't. He never pushed, never demanded, never tried to control. Their first kiss happened 6 months after they met, and Emma cried afterward. Not from fear, but from the realization that she could still feel safe with someone, could still experience intimacy without terror. "I have a lot of baggage," Emma warned him. "Everyone does," Thomas replied. "Yours is just more visible. But Emma, you're not your trauma. You're so much more than what happened to you." It took Emma another year to fully believe that. But slowly, with Thomas's support and her own growing confidence, she began to rebuild not just her face, but her entire sense of self. 6 years after the attack, Emma stood in a television studio, preparing to film a documentary about acid attack survivors. She'd partnered with a major broadcaster to tell not just her story, but the stories of dozens of other survivors around the world. The documentary, Beyond the Scars, would follow Emma as she traveled to India, Pakistan, Cambodia, and across the UK, meeting survivors and advocating for change. During filming in India, Emma met a young woman named Priya, not her friend from London, but a 19-year-old whose face had been destroyed by her ex-boyfriend 2 years earlier. Priya hadn't left her home since the attack, hadn't looked in a mirror, hadn't imagined a future beyond survival. Emma sat with her in her small apartment, their scarred faces reflecting similar stories. "I used to be beautiful," Priya said quietly. "Now I'm a monster." "You're not a monster," Emma said firmly. "You're a survivor. And I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you can have a life again. Not the same life. I won't lie about that. But a meaningful life. A full life." "Ow," Priya asked, tears streaming down her damaged cheeks. "How do you live when everyone stares, when children cry at the sight of you?" Emma took Priya's hand. "One day at a time. Some days you'll feel strong. Some days you want to hide forever. Both are okay. But slowly, if you let yourself, you'll find new purposes, new dreams." She told Priya about the foundation, about speaking engagements, about Thomas and the life she'd built. "I'm not saying it's easy," Emma said. "It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But the alternative, letting Marcus win, letting that attack define my entire existence, that would be worse than death." Before Emma left India, Priya agreed to appear in the documentary. 6 months later, Emma received an email. Priya had started volunteering with an acid attack survivors group in Mumbai. Small steps, but steps nonetheless. 7 years after the attack, Emma received notification that Marcus Brennan was applying for early parole. He'd served 7 years of his 16-year minimum and was arguing he'd been rehabilitated, that he posed no further threat. Emma's victim impact statement, delivered via video link to the parole board, was uncompromising. "Marcus Brennan destroyed my face, but he tried to destroy much more than that," Emma said, looking directly into the camera. "He tried to destroy my spirit, my confidence, my ability to trust and love and live freely. He partially succeeded. I will carry the physical and emotional scars for the rest of my life." She detailed the ongoing medical treatments, the chronic pain, the PTSD that still flared during stressful periods. "But I want the board to know something else," Emma continued. "Marcus Brennan failed in his ultimate goal. He wanted to break me, to make me small and afraid. Instead, I built a life of purpose and meaning. I've helped hundreds of survivors find hope. I've advocated for legal changes that have made attacks like mine harder to commit. I've found love, built a career, created something positive from something horrific." She paused. "Marcus Brennan has served 7 years in prison. I've served 7 years in this body, with this face, with these memories. The difference is his sentence will eventually end. Mine never will. If you grant him parole now, you're saying 7 years is adequate punishment for orchestrating an attack that gave me a lifetime sentence." The parole board denied Marcus's application. He would serve his full 16 years minimum. Emma felt no satisfaction, only a grim acknowledgement of justice, incomplete though it was. 10 years after the attack, Emma stood in Parliament, testifying before a committee considering stricter regulations on sulfuric acid sales and harsher penalties for acid attacks. In the past decade, acid attacks in the UK have increased by 71%, Emma told the assembled politicians. Most victims are women. Most attackers are men who've been rejected or feel entitled to control their victims. The sentences are often light. Jordan Cole served just 4 years of his 6-year sentence. 4 years for permanently disfiguring another human being. She presented data, case studies, and proposed legislation that would classify acid attacks as equivalent to attempted murder, with minimum sentences of 20 years. "These aren't crimes of passion," Emma argued. "They're premeditated acts of torture. The person who obtains acid, travels to a location, and throws it in someone's face isn't acting on impulse. They're executing a plan to permanently destroy another person. The law should reflect that reality." The committee listened intently. Several members were visibly moved by Emma's testimony and her presence. Her scars a powerful visual argument for change. 6 months later, Parliament passed the Acid Attack Prevention Act, increasing penalties and requiring identification and registration for purchasing concentrated acids. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Emma stood in the gallery watching the vote, feeling a sense of purpose she'd never experienced in her modeling career. This mattered. This might save someone from experiencing what she had. 12 years after the attack, Emma married Thomas in a small ceremony surrounded by family and friends. She wore a simple white dress and no veil. She was long past hiding her scars. Zoe was her maid of honor. Priya from India flew in, along with several women Emma had met through the foundation. Dr. Chun attended, smiling proudly. When Thomas lifted Emma's chin to kiss her at the altar, she felt tears streaming down her face. Tears of joy, of gratitude, of wonder that she could still have this, could still experience moments of pure happiness. "I love every part of you," Thomas whispered against her lips. "Every scar, every story, everything that makes you who you are." At the reception, Emma gave a toast. 12 years ago, a man tried to destroy me because I wouldn't belong to him. He took my face, my career, my sense of safety in the world. For a long time, I thought he'd taken everything. She looked around at the people who'd supported her through the darkest periods. But he didn't take my capacity for love. He didn't take my strength, my determination, or my ability to build something meaningful from devastation. He didn't take my family, my friends, or my future. Emma raised her glass. To everyone who helped me rebuild. To everyone who saw past the scars to the person beneath. And to every survivor out there who thinks they'll never be whole again. You will. Maybe not the same whole, but whole nonetheless. I'm living proof. Emma had thrown her entire self into building a life that mattered. And in the end, that was a victory no scar could diminish.